Few franchises in the world of gaming are as thought-provoking as the Metal Gear franchise. Conspiracy theories run rampant among fans as they attempt to make sense out of the franchise's complex lore and Hideo Kojima's twistedly brilliant mind. Unfortunately, it is this very same complexity that has alienated a significant portion of the gaming population, and with the impending release of Metal Gear Solid 5, there is no time more paramount than now to begin comprehending the intricacies of the franchise's story. But do not fear, I have taken it upon myself to give a helping hand in that overwhelming endeavor. Welcome to Metal Gear Lore. To put together the puzzle that is the Metal Gear lore, it is important to start from the corners, from the foundation, from the beginning. But where does the Metal Gear lore begin? When in the timeline can one find the lore's genesis? The foundation and origin of the Metal Gear lore can be traced back to one event, the foundation of the organization known as the Philosophers. It is this organization that separates our world history from that of Hideo Kojima's, and understanding this organization is key to the comprehension of this complex lore. The Philosophers is a secret organization founded in 1922 after World War I. It consists of the wealthiest and most powerful minds from the United States, the Soviet Union, and the Republic of China. The organization consists of three branches: the American branch, the Russian or Soviet branch, and the Chinese branch. The original founders of this organization, this group of wealthy and powerful minds, would become known as the Wise Men's Committee. These extraordinary gentlemen founded the Philosophers with one goal in mind: to use their power and influence to steer the world's history away from brutal and needless warfare. But as years passed, the organization began to crumble due to internal conflicts, disagreements, and corruption, and one by one, the founding fathers of the Philosophers, the Wise Men's Committee, faded, perished, and died. The last member was killed in early 1930s after exposing the treacherous nature of the organization to his young daughter, the very child that would grow up to leave behind a legacy, a will that would change the world forever, the very child who would become the greatest soldier of the generation and receive the prestigious title of the Boss. With the Wise Men's Committee gone by the eve of the 1930s, the Philosophers organization spiraled out of control, with new and corrupt leadership taking the helms in all three branches. The original righteous goals of the Philosophers were replaced by corrupt pursuits for wealth, reach, and power. Soon, the new Philosophers would exponentially grow to become leading forces behind each branch's respective governments. The organization would train operatives and agents to undermine seats of power from the government and take control of each and every aspect. And soon, the organization's influence would reach other countries and organizations involved in every aspect of war. The Philosophers would eventually become war itself. They would use their influence to create endless cycles of conflicts, which would in turn lead to endless cycles of war. The world was at their hands, allowing the organization to bend the global economy to their will. Truly a fearsome world power unlike any other. Along with the withering of the Wise Men's Committee and the rise of the new and corrupt Philosophers, the 1930s saw the birth of key characters of the Metal Gear lore. In 1935, John was born. This child would come to surpass the Boss, his mentor, to receive the title Big Boss. And he would also become the father of three sons: Solid, Liquid, and Solidus Snake. On May 15, 1936, the girl who would become the agent known as Eva is born in Meridian, Idaho, USA. On June 22nd of the same year, Dr. Clark, who would come to be known as Paramedic, is born in Boston, Massachusetts. And by this time, David O, who would become known as Major Zero or Cypher, is already a full-grown man, soldier, and agent in his 30s. On November 11th, 1939, Donald Anderson, who would come to be known as Sigint, is born, shortly after the beginning of one of history's darkest times and one of the Philosopher's most conflicting moments, World War II. To ensure the victory of the Allies, the three branches of the Philosophers pooled their resources to garner a fortune worth over $100 billion, which in our present time is worth over $1.3 trillion. This mass fund became known as the Philosopher's Legacy. This limitless pool of money was used to develop new forms of warfare through new weapons such as rockets, nuclear weapons, and superhuman soldiers like the members of the Cobra unit. It was also agreed that once the Axis powers were defeated, the Philosopher's Legacy would be redistributed amongst the three branches. But with time, cooperation soon evolved into feuds as one branch of the Philosophers would attempt to outpace the others in technological advancement during World War II through sabotage. But World War II wasn't just a spotlight for the ensuing feuds and conflicts within the Philosophers. It was also a key moment for various characters of the lore. Roy Campbell was likely born sometime during World War II, considering that he is in his 60s during the events of Metal Gear Solid. The same goes for Kenneth Baker, a key player of the Shadow Moses incident. In 1942, the boss, known as the Joy back then, who by the time had already made her way up as a soldier and met key characters like David O, assembled the Cobra unit, which would play a pivotal role in leading the Allies to victory. In 1943, the boss was assigned to a mission involving the assassination of non-fictional scientist John von Neumann after Russians intentionally falsely accused him of being a German spy, all this to prevent America from developing plutonium bombs. Before the mission, the boss learned that she is pregnant with a son she had with Cobra Unit's spirit medium, the Sorrow. On June 6th of 1944, on D-Day, the boss gave birth to Adamska, who would become known as Adam, or Revolver Ocelot. He was born in the middle of battlefield through C-section. Over a year later, on August 6, 1945, the day an atomic bomb is dropped on Hiroshima, Huey Emmerich, son to Manhattan Project fictional scientist Dr. Emmerich and father to Hal Emmerich, was born. On September 2, 1945, World War II came to an end and circumstances became chaotic within the Philosophers. In the confusion, Boris Volgin, who was responsible for laundering the legacy during World War II, stole the legacy and kept it to himself to ensure that his country, the motherland, would have total control of the entire legacy. And to keep the money safe, he devised an ingenious plan involving scattering the mass funds to various banks in countries all over the world, countries such as Switzerland, Australia, and Hong Kong. The transactions for the deposits were kept on a single microfilm, ensuring that access to the microfilm was the only way to access the legacy. It could almost be said that the microfilm itself is the Philosopher's Legacy. With the legacy stolen, tensions rose further within the Philosophers, setting the stage for a very different kind of war that followed soon after, the Cold War, which began in 1947, not too long after the birth of Kazuhira Miller in 1946. As most people may know, the Cold War is a non-fictional part of the world's history that came about from specific chain of events. Hideo Kojima, however, created his own vision of the 4 decades long event for the Metal Gear lore. In Metal Gear, one of the main reasons that the Cold War began was because each branch of the Philosophers, the American, Russian, and Chinese branches, wanted to recover the Philosopher's legacy to keep for themselves. In the Metal Gear lore, the fight for the legacy was the hidden face of these fearsome few decades. Each country believed that whoever obtained the legacy would become the victor of the Cold War. Whoever obtained this mass fortune would become the world's dominant superpower. And thus, the stage is set for the next chapter of the Metal Gear lore. All of these events, the foundation of the organization known as the Philosophers, the death of its founders, the Wise Men's Committee, the eventual corruption of the Philosophers, the birth of John, Eva, Adam, Dr. Clark, and Donald Anderson, along with the presence of David O., the events that transpired during World War II, the stolen mass fortune known as the Philosopher's Legacy, and the rivalry between America, Russia, and China to retrieve this mass fortune through the Cold War, set the stage for events such as Snake's journey as a rookie soldier to become Big Boss, the virtuous mission, Operation Snake Eater, and the foundation of the organization that would come to be known as the Patriots.